I was driving home from work one night, and I realized I couldn't see more than 10 feet ahead of my car. My headlights had turned a cloudy, yellowish brown over the years, and they were barely pushing any light onto the road. I pulled over, checked the bulbs. They were fine. The problem wasn't the bulb. It was the lens. Replacement headlight assemblies for my car would cost me $300 from a dealership, or about $150 if I bought them online and installed them myself. That was still too much money for a simple piece of plastic. So I started looking for cheaper solutions. I found restoration kits that promised to fix them for $30, but then I stumbled upon a comment on a forum from a mechanic who claimed he had a trick that cost absolutely nothing. He said, "Just rub some kitchen oil on them and they will look brand new." I laughed out loud. It sounded like one of those ridiculous grandma hacks that never actually work, that I had nothing to lose. I had a bottle of olive oil in my kitchen, a rag, and a desperate need to see the road at night, so I decided to test this myth. And what I discovered over the next 24 hours completely changed how I look at every single quick fix hack on the internet. This is not a sponsored video. I bought the oil from my own grocery budget. And honestly, I am glad I tried this, because it taught me a lesson about chemistry that cost me way more than $30 to learn. Let me give you some context about why headlights get cloudy in the first place. It is not just dirt. It is actually a chemical degradation. The plastic lenses on modern cars are made from polycarbonate, which is a durable material, but it is also porous on a microscopic level. Over time, exposure to ultraviolet light from the sun causes the clear protective coating on the plastic to break down and oxidize. That oxidation creates a yellowish hazy layer that scatters the light instead of letting it pass through. It is basically a sunburn that has turned into scar tissue on your headlights. The industry standard for fixing this is to sand down the cloudy layer using progressively finer sandpaper, polish it, and then apply a clear UV-resistant coating to seal it. That is what the $30 restoration kits do. But the mechanic's trick claimed that kitchen oil could bypass all of that. The theory goes that oil has a refractive index very close to that of polycarbonate plastic. When you apply it, it fills in the micro scratches and pores on the surface, temporarily smoothing out the haze and allowing light to pass through clearly again. It sounds like science. But in practice, it sounded like a quick way to make my car smell like a salad dressing. I had to find out for myself. I cleared my garage, turned on my work lights, and parked my car so I could easily access both headlights. I took a before photo of the passenger side, which was so yellow that you could barely see the reflector inside the housing. I took another photo of the driver side, which was in the exact same condition. I decided to test 2 different oils to see if the type of oil mattered. I grabbed a bottle of extra virgin olive oil from the kitchen and a bottle of standard canola oil. I also grabbed a microfiber cloth because the mechanic's instructions specifically said not to use paper towels, since they can leave scratches. I poured a small amount of olive oil onto a clean corner of the cloth, and I gently rubbed it onto the passenger side headlight in a circular motion. The moment the oil touched the plastic, something strange happened. The yellow haze instantly seemed to dissolve. The headlight became brighter, clearer, and almost reflective. I wiped away the excess oil, and I stood back. The difference was night and day. The passenger side headlight looked almost new. The cloudiness was gone. I could see the reflector inside perfectly. I did the exact same thing to the driver side headlight, using the canola oil, and I got the exact same result. Both headlights were crystal clear. I ran outside to the front of the car, turned on my headlights, and aimed them at the garage door. The beam was sharp, white, and bright. It looked like I had bought brand new headlights. I was genuinely impressed. For about 30 seconds, I thought I had discovered the greatest car hack in history. I had saved myself $300 and 20 minutes of work. I was ready to film a celebration video and tell everyone that this was the ultimate budget fix, but then I decided to wait, because the mechanic's post had included a warning that I had almost ignored. He said the fix was temporary, and that I should not drive the car immediately. He said to let the oil sit for at least an hour, and then check the surface again.
I waited 1 hour. I went back to my garage, and I looked at the headlights. They were still clear. But I noticed something different. The surface was no longer smooth. It was slightly tacky. The oil had not absorbed into the plastic. It had just sat there on the surface, and it was now attracting dust like a magnet. Tiny specks of dirt were already sticking to the lens. I wiped it off with a clean cloth, and the headlights looked clear again, but the tacky feeling remained. I decided to wait a full 24 hours before passing any final judgment, because I wanted to see how the oil held up over time. And this is where the myth started to break down in a way that I was not expecting. The next morning, I walked out to my car, and I was shocked. The headlights looked worse than they had before I started. The yellow haze was back, but this time it was streaky. There were dark smudges in the shape of the circular motions I had used to apply the oil, and the plastic itself felt soft. When I pressed a fingernail gently against the lens, it left a small indentation. That was a red flag. I had to understand the chemistry behind what was actually happening, so I started digging deeper into the research, and what I found was genuinely terrifying for anyone who loves their car. Polycarbonate plastic is not just porous. It is also chemically sensitive to oils. While the oil initially fills in the microcracks and makes the surface look clearer, it also acts as a solvent that attacks the degraded plastic coating. The olive oil and canola oil both contain fatty acids and oleic acid that actually break down the remaining UV protective layer on the lens. Instead of just masking the haze, the oil is eating away at the plastic itself. This is why the lens felt soft to the touch. The oil had softened the polycarbonate. And because the oil attracts dust and grime, those particles embed themselves into the softened plastic, making the haze even worse over time. To test this theory, I took a scrap piece of old polycarbonate plastic and applied olive oil to it. Within 6 hours, the plastic started to soften and turn white. By the next day, it was visibly degraded and brittle. The same thing was happening to my headlights. The oil had given me a 5-minute illusion of perfection, but it had actually accelerated the degradation process. My headlights were now permanently damaged because of the oil. I took the car to a professional auto body shop, and the technician confirmed my fears. He said the oil had penetrated the surface and caused the plastic to swell. He told me that the only way to fix it now was to completely sand down the entire lens using heavy grit sandpaper, which would remove a layer of the plastic and then polish and recoat it. That was going to cost me $65. And I had not saved $30. I had actually cost myself an extra $35 on top of the original repair. But I was not finished with the experiment. I wanted to know if there was any kitchen oil that actually worked, or if this was all a terrible mistake. I tested coconut oil, because it is a solid oil at room temperature. I tested baby oil, because it is a mineral oil, and supposedly has a better refractive index. And I even tested vegetable shortening, which is a hydrogenated fat. The results were completely consistent across every single oil. Every single one of them created the same temporary clarity for the first hour, and every single one of them caused the same damage within 24 hours. The only difference was how fast the damage appeared. The thinner oils like canola and olive oil showed streaks and tackiness within 2 hours. The thicker oils like coconut oil and shortening took about 6 hours to show visible streaks and softening. But by the next morning, every single headlight was left with a streaky, hazy, soft plastic surface that was significantly worse than it was at the start. I decided to compare these results against a legitimate $30 restoration kit. I bought a kit that included sandpaper, a polish, and a UV clear coat. I spent about an hour and a half carefully sanding the driver's side headlight, starting with 600 grit and working up to 3000 grit. Then I polished it, and finally I applied the clear coat. The result was perfect. The driver's side headlight looked factory new. It had a hard, glossy surface that repelled water and dust. And after 4 weeks of daily driving, it still looks exactly the same. There is no comparison between the two methods. The oil trick is an emergency gimmick that will ruin your headlights, while the proper restoration kit gives you a permanent result for the exact same price you would have paid for the mistake. But here is where I have to be honest about the one small exception. If you are stranded on a dark road in the middle of nowhere with no other option, and you absolutely need to see where you are going for the next 30 minutes, then yes, a tiny drop of oil on a cloth will give you a temporary visual improvement. It will allow you to drive safely to a gas station or a mechanic, but you must wipe it off completely the moment you arrive. If you leave it on, you will damage the plastic. And you should never, ever use this on a car you care about or on a car that you plan to keep for more than a year. Let me give you the final numbers on this experiment. The $30 restoration kit took me 1 hour and 30 minutes to apply. It gave me permanent, crystal clear headlights that will last for years. The kitchen oil method took me 2 minutes to apply. It gave me 20 minutes of safety, but it permanently softened and damaged my plastic lenses. The oil left my headlights so soft that I could literally scratch them with my fingernail. And the repair cost to fix the oil damage was $65. That means the oil trick did not save me $30. It cost me an extra $35 on top of the original repair. If I had just bought the restoration kit in the first place, I would have saved myself time, money, and a lot of frustration. But I did not want to stop there. I also tested the myth that cooking spray can be used to fix headlights. I used a standard non-stick cooking spray, and I got the exact same result. The spray left a greasy film that looked clear for about 10 minutes, but then it turned into a sticky mess that attracted bugs and dust like a fly trap. The spray even caused the plastic to bubble in one small spot, because the propellant gas in the aerosol reacted with the polycarbonate. That was the scariest moment of the entire experiment. I genuinely thought I had melted the headlight. It turned out that the gas was just expanding the plastic momentarily, but it did cause a permanent warping effect that I had to sand out later. This is exactly why quick internet hacks are so dangerous. They sound simple, they sound cheap, and they give you a beautiful result for the first 30 seconds, but the consequences only show up after the video is over. Does kitchen oil actually work to fix headlights? Yes. For 20 minutes it absolutely works. The clarity is undeniable, the shine is real, but it is a trap. The oil does not fix the haze, it hides it by swelling the plastic and filling the pores. And because it is a kitchen oil, it contains fatty acids that eat away at the plastic coating, making the haze permanently worse. Does it save you money? No. It costs you more money, because you will have to pay for proper repair after the oil damages the surface. Should you use it? Only in a life or death emergency situation where you are alone on a dark road and you cannot see to drive. But if you have $30 and an afternoon, buy the restoration kit. It is safer, it is permanent, and it will actually make your headlights look brand new. I learned a hard lesson from this experiment. I learned that cheap shortcuts are almost always too good to be true. And I learned that my car is not a salad bowl. It does not belong on a dinner plate. If you are considering using oil on your headlights, I'm begging you not to do it. The internet loves to share these quick fixes, but they rarely show you the damage that happens 24 hours later. I am willing to be the person who shows you the ugly side of the hack. Because if I can save even one of you from ruining your car, then this entire experiment was worth the $30 mistake. If you enjoyed this myth-busting experiment and you want to see more real tests like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, because next time I am testing something even crazier. I am going to take a completely different internet hack that sounds absolutely ridiculous, and I will test it until it breaks. If you have ever tried a car hack that worked or failed, let me know in the comments. I genuinely want to hear your horror stories and your success stories. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the most popular hacks are the ones that are most dangerous. You just have to be willing to look past the 30-second shine and see the 24-hour disaster. See you in the next one.